Hi, I'm Stu from HiveMind Automation and welcome back to the Hive. In this code review episode, we're going to take a look at workflow automation, and we'll be taking a look at a Python script that I've built to make posting on my social media pages a lot easier when new videos get released on my YouTube channel. If you're looking for a way to automate posting content to your social media pages, then this workflow automation might be something that interests you. So while I roll the intro, take a moment to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified when I release new videos each week, and let's get started. So I did mention in a previous video about workflow automation that I've been introducing more scripted and automated workflows into my video production pipeline to help save me some time and effort. Now, I'm told that one of the things that's important for a growing YouTube channel is a social media presence, and it's important to post frequently on these platforms to ensure that your profile stays visible and relevant. Now, me personally, I don't really have a lot of time for social media. Don't get me wrong, I definitely see the value when it comes to advertising and promoting businesses, or in my case, YouTube channels. But posting when I release new videos each week can be a little bit of a chore, having to post the same thing to multiple platforms in a format that works for each individual platform. Not only that, but I also have to make sure that I am ready to go at the time when the video is scheduled to be released. So because social media is an important component, I've figured that it might make sense to automate the process so that A, I don't have to think about it as much anymore, and B, I don't forget to do it when it comes time to post to social media. And lastly, C, I can also have a bit of fun with the chore now and then never have to worry about it again. So I started digging around and I found another YouTuber, Cal Holden, has a video about exactly this process. Cal does videos about programming, and I drew a lot of inspiration from his videos and his GitHub repository from that video, but I've built my own code to handle the process. After watching Cal's video, I decided I would start by defining exactly what I want the script to achieve and where it would differ from his script. Firstly, I needed it to look up the YouTube API and get the details of the latest video that's been published. Thankfully, YouTube has a very well documented API that we can query to figure those details out. And the details that we're going to grab from that YouTube API about the video are the title, the URL of the video, and the thumbnail of the video. And that thumbnail lets us have a nice pretty picture to post to our social media as well to make it a little bit more eye-catching. Now, in the future, we may end up grabbing other details about the video as well, whether that be analytics data or others, but for now, all I really need are those three things. The next thing I want to do is check whether or not we've already posted about the video or not, because obviously I don't want to spam Instagram with the same post several times. Now, in Cal's video, he wrote the details of each video he posted to social media into a local JSON file. Now, I like the idea of using a database type setup, but I decided that I wanted something that could persist across computers, whether I run the script locally on my laptop, which I've obviously been doing while developing the script, or when I do finally migrate this over to run from my server. I don't want to double up posts just because we're running on different hardware. So to take care of that, I've written my script to write the details of each post into a MySQL database on my server. Now, it's fair to say that a MySQL database is complete overkill for what is essentially a single table with less than half a dozen columns right now. But I already have an instance of MariaDB running to handle my Home Assistant history, so I figured why not, and it gives me an opportunity to expand the functionality later if I want to. After gathering the information from YouTube and checking that we haven't already posted to social media, we then need to make a post to Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and links to my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook are in the video description down below. Again, there's more good news when it comes to APIs, and even better news if you're using Python for this, because all three have really great Python libraries to make posting a fair bit simpler. So we're going to take a look at the code. Now, if you want to follow along at home, I will put a link to this repository on my GitHub page in the video description down below. So once again, we are working with Python, and the first thing we're going to do is import all of the libraries that we need. Now, obviously, the four main libraries that we need to get the desired result are the Google API, and that allows us to interface with the YouTube APIs. We also have a Facebook SDK API here. We've got TweePie, which allows us to post to Twitter. And we've also got Instabot, which allows us to post to Instagram. Now, being that Instagram and Facebook are essentially the same company, there may be some double ups between the Facebook SDK library here and also the Instabot library. But the Instabot library does make posting a lot simpler, so we're sticking with that just for now. Something else that I'm doing is importing this authkeys file here, and you'll see that I've got this authkeys.py file here, and that contains things like my API keys, my passwords for Instagram, and so on and so forth. And that just allows me to not store my passwords and authentication keys in the main file, especially because this project is on GitHub, but we can also then import those details, and you can also modify this authkeys.template, save it as authkeys.py, and use it for your own purposes. So we need the YouTube keys, the channel ID, the Instagram passwords, etc. Now I've put links to where you can get that in here in the comments section, and I believe it's also in my README file on how to get those as well, so you can check those out on the GitHub repo. But once you've filled that out and saved it to authkeys.py, when you import the authkeys file, all of that data comes over into the main file so that it can authenticate to each of the services. Because I want this script to be able to run unattended, I've imported this logging library as well, and you can see that we are instantiating logging here. At the moment, this log is just writing out to a local file, but you'll see in the comments here, I've got a to-do to enable logging to a log server, whether that be Logstash, Graylog, or any other kind of syslog server. And when we instantiate the logging, we're also just putting into the log this starting social media poster, just to put a nice kind of point in the logs. If we take a look at the log here, we can see starting social media poster here, and that makes it nice and easy for us to find the start, and you'll also see we've got the end run here as well. And so we're just defining here the file that we are logging out to. I'll need to figure out how to do the logging to a log server here, but we would probably be changing the details of the basic config. We've got our format, which includes the time, the logging level name, and the log message, which, as you see here, we've got the time, the log level, and the log message, and they are nicely formatted into columns there. We've got UTF-8 encoding. Our logging level is info, so you can change this to debug if you like, and that will provide a lot more information into the log. And since I am now running this in production, I don't need the debug information anymore. It was just making the log file quite large, and then we're defining our date format of year, month, day, hour, minute, second, and that's really it. We're also defining some variables here. We've got our video number here of 0. Now, when we look at the YouTube API, we're going to get a list of 5 videos where 0 is the most recent video. So we could actually put this to 1 to put the second most recent video, but generally speaking, we use the 0th video in the array. This is quite handy if you want to do older videos in your backlog. We're also defining the host of our SQL server and the database that we're going to be touching with the SQL connector. And then here we are instantiating our connection to the SQL server. So we're pointing at the host, We also have, from our auth keys, we're pulling in the SQL user and the SQL password. So if I take a look here, we actually define those here, put the username and password in for the SQL database. And then we start defining some functions. So we have get latest video, get thumb, post to Twitter, Instagram post, Facebook post, log to SQL, and cleanup. And then we have the main script body. I'll take a look at the functions shortly. The first thing we're going to do is run cleanup. If we take a look inside the function definition, we've got the cleanup script inside a try except block. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to try to remove a folder called config, because one of the libraries puts in a config folder here, and if you don't clear that out, the connection breaks every time. I believe it's Instabot that does that, and it stores some cookies in there. I haven't figured out how to just reuse the cookies so it's not logging in every time. Using this cleanup, we can clear out the config file here. The except part of this try except block, if it comes back saying, hey, the config folder doesn't exist, it will tell us, hey, the config folder doesn't exist, and then it's going to look for any JPEG files in this folder and remove those JPEG files, and then it's going to log that the files are cleaned. The reason for that, when we run the script, we actually pull a JPEG down of the thumbnail, and I don't want this folder to fill up with JPEG. So after we've run the cleanup, we want to get a variable of post, and the post variable is going to be populated by calling the get latest video function and passing in the YouTube key and the channel ID, which we've defined in the auth keys. So the YouTube key and the channel ID here. So if we scroll back up to the get latest video function, which we've just called by this post equals. So this function definition takes in the YouTube API key and the channel ID. So when we called this function, we passed those variables in, and inside the function, those can be referred back to with these variable names here. We're defining a URL prefix, which is the prefix for the video. We're then creating a YouTube variable, which we're using build, and this is using the Google API tools. So we're building a YouTube, and we're using the developer key from this YouTube API key here. Then we're going to list the content of the channel. So we're defining a request. The request is a youtube.channels.list. So that's going back to this object here. And the details that we're looking for content details, and the channel ID we are pulling from function definition when we passed that data in. The response is this request, and we're executing that request. And then we've got the playlist details. So the playlist that we're looking for is the uploads playlist from that YouTube channel, and that can be found inside this response at the position of items, 0, content details, and related playlists, and then uploads. Now we've got some commented out print statements in here, and I've also got this commented out section here. This commented out section, if we were to uncomment that and then run the script, it would dump the details that it's pulled out from this response into a JSON file in the folder there. And I was using that to find the location inside the JSON response of the uploads playlist. So then we've got the playlist ID. So we now need to define the playlist that we want the latest video for. And so we've got the playlist, we've got the content details, and we're taking this uploads playlist and dumping that into this request. We're then executing that request to get the response. Again, we can uncomment this section here to dump that out to a JSON file. So this playlist response is a list of all of the videos inside the playlist. The video ID that we're looking for, so we want the video ID, which is a string that comes after v equals. So after v equals in a YouTube URL is this video ID that we want. And so we're looking at the response from the playlist lookup inside the items, and then we're taking video number. So if you recall, we defined the video number up here at the top of the script. And so because it's currently 0, we are going to be looking at the 0th item in this array. We could put 1, 2, 3, or 4 in here because there are a total of 5 videos returned here per page. And there's a bit of a to-do here. in being able to look at other pages of the returned results, but right now the first 5 are perfectly fine. And then after the 0th, we're looking at content details, and inside that content details, we need the value of the video ID key. So now that we've got that, we can grab some details about the video. So we are going to youtube.videos.list. So we've gone from the channels list to the playlist items list, now to the videos list. And so we can pull in the details from that video, and we're passing the video ID in here. And then we're executing that to put that data into the video response. And again, if we wanted to, we could uncomment this section to dump that out into another JSON file. So now that we've got the video response variable populated from the API, we can get the video title, which is in the items, 0th, snippet, localized, and title of the JSON response. And then we can, from there, generate the link. So we've actually already got the video ID, so we could have generated the link earlier. But we can generate the link, which is our URL prefix, which we defined at the beginning of this function. And then we're tacking the video ID onto the end of that. And we're also creating a variable called post content, and that is pretty much the content of what we would have inside our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram post. And that is, check out my latest YouTube video, and then the video title, and then the video link. So the video title that we've got from the API, the video link that we're generating from the URL prefix, and the video ID that we pulled from the API. And then we are logging the data out to our log files. So the latest video found, which is the video ID, the title of that video, and the link to that video. We're all putting all of that into the log. So once we have run through this function, we are returning the post content, which is check out my latest YouTube video. We're returning the video title, which we pulled from the API. We're returning the video link from the URL prefix plus the video ID. And we're also returning the video ID. So that's going to return a list with these details in each of those things. So this post variable here now has that list. The next thing is to get the video thumbnail, and we're calling getThumb, and we're also passing back the authkeys.youtube key, and then we're also passing post3, so the 4th item in the list from this variable here. So if we pop back up to where the get video thumbnail is, if we expand that, you'll see that we're taking the YouTube API key and the video ID. You'll see that I've got some to-dos here. Firstly, we're going to put the thumbnail gather into the latest video functions. I actually want to move all of this into the first function that we defined here and just return it as part of the initial variable. And that should simplify the process just a wee bit. And we also should probably be using Pillow instead of Matplotlib. It's a better library for dealing with images, and hopefully might simplify a few things as well. At any rate, this is where it stands right now. So we're taking the YouTube API key and the video ID, and we are instantiating the YouTube API again. So the same as what we did in the previous function. And our lookup is we're listing the details of the video from video ID, which we've passed in there. We are then getting the response by executing that, and what we are then looking for is the URL of the thumbnail. So inside this variable, we're looking for the response, and we're looking at items, 0, snippet, thumbnails, high, URL. High is just the resolution of the thumbnail. We can then, we've got a debug thing here to print out the URL. We don't need to worry about that. I've just commented that out. We are grabbing the video title also from the video response. So we're going to grab that title, and then we're logging that we're going to pull the thumbnail from YouTube and put the video title in there. And then we're downloading that thumbnail from the thumbnail URL, and we're writing the file out to the name of the video and then .jpeg. So you remember before when we were using that cleanup function, we were cleaning out JPEGs. This is where it downloads that JPEG file. This section here, if we were to uncomment that, that would actually display the JPEG on screen. And I might uncomment that to show that process working, and I should also uncomment these imports for matplotlib. And so we've got the thumbnail, and we're going to return that thumbnail back as a variable here as well. So now we need to determine whether we're posting or not, and we're doing that using this posting variable, which calls the log2SQL function, and it's passing in post3, and that is the video ID that we've grabbed at this post function here. We are also passing through post1, which is the video title, and post2, which is the video link, and we're also passing in the video thumbnail, which we grabbed here when we returned the variable there. So inside this log2SQL function, we are pulling in the video ID, video title, video link, and thumbnail. We're instantiating the MySQL cursor, which allows us to run the MySQL queries, and we're then opening the thumb file. So when we grabbed the thumbnail, we downloaded the JPEG and we put it into this folder, and we're then just going to open that into this thumb file variable. We're defining our SQL query as insert into videos, the video ID column, the video title column, the link column, and the thumbnail column, the values of string, 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 string. Then these values are the strings that we're passing in, which is the video ID, the video title, the video link, and the thumb file. So the thumb file from here, and then these three variables here. So then we're going to try to run the MySQL. So we're going to run myCursor, which we instantiated here, execute. So we're going to try and execute this SQL with these values, and we're going to log posting to MySQL database as well at the same time. Now, in the event that we get a MySQL integrity error, the likelihood is that that means that the video ID, which is our primary key inside the database, already exists, and so we've already posted. So we're going to log the error of error and return a value of false. And that means then that this posting value becomes false. If we don't meet that exception, we then continue out to respond equals mydb commit. So we then commit that execution to the database, and provided that that respond equals nothing, so we get nothing inside that response, we can return a value of true into this posting variable here. Now this posting equals true that I've commented out here, I've used that to override this variable in the case that I want to post anyway, regardless of whether or not we found the data in the MySQL database. Because we know that the MySQL posting is working fine, or I know that the MySQL posting has been working fine, this allows me to just uncomment that section so that we force the posting, so that we can troubleshoot things with, say, the Twitter posting, the Instagram posting, or the Facebook posting. Now that we know whether or not we're posting the data with either a true or a false response here, so if we get a false response, it's obviously not true, so we're into the else thing here. We log an error that we've already posted to the socials, so we're skipping. We log info that we're cleaning up the files. We delete the JPEG file. We just print an empty line. In fact, we probably don't need to print that empty line, but I'll leave it in there for now. We run the cleanup function that we showed before. So we've cleaned up at the start, and we're also cleaning up at the end in the case of a failed run. We log the info that we've got end run, and then we just log 3 blank lines into the log as well. It helps with the delineation between different runs. If, however, we get the value of true when we run this log to SQL, we then call each of these post to Twitter, Instagram post, and Facebook post functions. So post to Twitter, let me collapse the log to SQL. So we'll take a look at post to Twitter, and this one's pretty straightforward. It grabs the post text and the video title, and the post text is the post.0. When we grabbed the video details, we defined this post content, so it'll be check out my latest YouTube video, and then the title and the link. And we also have post 1. So when we go here, we want the post text and the video title. So when we post to Twitter, we're going to log authenticating to Twitter. We are going to authenticate to Twitter using TweePy, and we're looking back at the auth keys. We're looking at the consumer API token and the consumer API secret, and then we're also setting an access token for the access token and the access token secret inside this auth keys template. Then we are going to create the API object and run tweepy.api and then auth. So these auth details are then going to be passed through to authenticate to the Twitter API. We're going to log posting to Twitter, and then we're going to call API update with media, and it's going to grab the JPEG file from the folder and post the post text there. So now that we've posted to Twitter, we then run an Instagram post, and again we're passing in some variables. We've got post 1, which if we look here was the video title, and we've got post 2, which was the video link. So video title and video link. So if we take a look at the Instagram post function, we take the video title and the video link. We're instantiating the Instabot library here. We're logging that we're logging into Instagram, and then we're trying to log into Instagram with bot.login. Our username is coming from authkeys.instagram username, and our password is coming from the same location, authkeys.instagram password, and we're logging info successful. We probably should put this inside a try block in case something goes wrong, but I'm yet to see something go wrong with this. So let me just add in a to-do put inside try block. We're finding problems as we go through. We're going to create a caption text, which is check out my YouTube video, the video title, the video link, and a bunch of hashtags there as well. We could probably modify these if we wanted to, or actually generate this variable somewhere else. And then we're going to log that we're posting to the Instagram, and we're going to run bot.upload photo. So it's uploading the photo of video title.jpg. So again, this file that we've pulled down here. And with the caption text that we've defined here. So lucky last, we're then going to call the Facebook post, and we're posting the content of post 0, which was the post content that we generated inside the get latest video function, and post 2, which is the video link. So if we pop back up to the Facebook post, the post text and the video link. And this one's really quite simple. We're instantiating FB as Facebook.graph API and the access token. So that access token is inside the auth keys file here. So Facebook API user access token. And then we're posting to Facebook. So we're logging the info and calling FB, put object, then the parent object is me, the connection name is the feed, the message is the post text that we pulled in here, and the link is the video link that we've got in here. Once we've done that, we can log the info that we've posted to socials, and this is from post 1, we're actually putting the video title, posted to socials, logging that we're cleaning up the files, a clean line in the logging there. We're going to run a JPEG remove, which we should probably be doing inside the cleanup function, but we'll leave that there. What we're doing with this one though is we're removing a file that has this .jpeg.removeme extension on the end of it, because once you post to some of these socials, it creates, it adds this remove me suffix to the file name. We're calling the cleanup script, and then we are logging end run and logging 3 blank lines. So what I might do is I will run the Python file in my terminal here, and we'll see what happens. So it's trying to log in, and it has presented me with a JPEG view of the latest thumbnail, which was my Hyperion video at the time of recording this episode. As soon as I close that, if we pop back over here, it's actually not done anything else here. So this is the details of wget when it downloaded the file. And you'll see that the file's gone because the cleanup has run. So if we take a look at the log, we've got starting social media poster. It's got an error because it didn't find the config file. We probably don't need that there anymore, but we'll just leave it in there. And it says that the files have been cleaned. There's a warning about some OAuth stuff. It doesn't actually matter. OAuth 2 client or Google Auth, I'm not sure what that's about. I'll worry about that in a future release of this code. It's then found the latest video, which is this ID here. and it's got the video link there as well. So that's the output of the log. We're getting this file cache unavailable again. We don't need to worry about that. That just seems to happen when we're calling the YouTube API. I'm not sure what that's about. So then it's pulling the thumbnail from YouTube, the title of the video, reactive TV bias lighting. Then here you can see we've got an error, duplicate entry, and the video ID for key primary. And that's the SQL error that we were looking for. And we could see the video title has already been posted to socials, skipping, then it's cleaning up the files cleaned, and then end run and the 3 blank lines that we looked at. So that's what we would expect to see in the logs in the event that the video had already been posted to the social media. Now, if I can find an example where it hadn't already been posted to social media, here we go. Okay, so we've got this happened last Sunday at 5:30 when the video came out. So we've got starting social media poster. There were no files to clean up the config file. Again, we saw the OAuth error. I'm not worried about that. We got the latest video ID, the latest video title, and the latest video link. OAuth error again, pulling the thumbnail from YouTube, posting to the MySQL database, authenticating to Twitter, posting to Twitter. The Instabot version started, and then some debug info from Instabot. It's imported it from where there. Logging to Instagram, not yet logged in, starting pre-login flow. Logged in successfully as HiveMind automation. We can scroll through. A lot of this stuff is really kind of not useful. It might be useful if you're debugging, but you've got the responses of 200. 200 response is good. We've got login successful, and then we've got posting to Instagram. So post to endpoint. And it returned the response of 200, that's good. And then the photo is uploaded. Posting to Facebook, reactive TV bias lighting is posted to socials, and cleaning up the files. So, and then we've got the end run and some stuff in here about saving the checkpoint file. So you can see we actually get a lot more logs when everything works than when it doesn't. So that's a little bit different, but that's the debug logs, which we don't seem to get an option of ignoring the stuff that's from other libraries. So I've got SQL tools installed in VS Code here. And what we can do is we can connect to my database server here, and then I should be able to type in my password, and then we can see details of our databases here. We've got our Nextcloud database, our Home Assistant database, and our YouTube database. Obviously, the YouTube database is what I'm interested in. And if we look at the tables and videos, if I click on that videos there, we'll see that we've got video ID, which is our primary key, title, link, and thumbnail. And if I click on this magnifying glass here, we should be able to see the video records, the table records, and we'll see the records that are in that database. So we've got 10 more beginner automations, NFC and Home Assistant, right way to get help, etc., etc. And inside here we've got our video ID, the video title, the video link, and we've also got a thumbnail. Now the thumbnail we're encoding in base 64, and what that means is that at least if something happens and I need to get the thumbnail back for whatever reason, it is inside the database here as base 64, and it's actually not that difficult for me to download and re-encode that as a JPEG. So I'm going to just comment out the bit where it showed me the thumbnail on the screen again and save that. And what I'll do, because I've made some modifications, I'll head over to our source control, and I'm going to just hit that there. So that's essentially a git add that we've added that there. And I'm just going to put in a message here, which is live video updates. And we're going to commit that change. And then I'm going to pop in here and I'm going to push that change up to GitHub so that the GitHub repository will have the latest version with all the updated to-dos that we've got from this recording. Now, one thing I was doing previously is I had a cron job set up on my laptop here to run the script every 15 minutes. And because we were checking our SQL database before posting, we weren't in any danger of spamming the social media accounts with the same post. So it does make sense to run it automatically rather than on a schedule that fits with the YouTube schedule. Because the YouTube schedule has the potential to change. I might decide all of a sudden to post a video on a Tuesday night instead of Sunday afternoon. So I think I'll save the cron details for another video, but at the moment I'm not running that because I've had a couple of modifications to this script which have broken a lot of those processes. So I'm going to save covering cron for another video and we'll take a look at that later. But in order to facilitate that, I created this socialposter.sh file, which it sources the virtual environment that I've got the Python file set up in and calls Python 3.9. Explicitly 3.9 seemed to work with this virtual environment, especially the Facebook API seemed to be a problem in anything other than 3.9. So it sourced that and then ran 3.9, ran the Python file there. As I say, I'll take another look at cron in another video because cron is a whole different beast unto itself. What I will also be looking at in future is moving this away from my laptop and actually running it from my server inside a Docker container, because that's going to be a lot easier for me. And because we're using a SQL server rather than a local JSON file to store the details of what we've already posted, we could move this around to anywhere we wanted to. We could copy the Docker container, put it onto a Raspberry Pi, put it onto my server. We could upgrade the server and keep that same Docker container. And it wouldn't matter because it'd be looking back at the SQL database and not multiplying the posts for the same video. So as you can see, there's quite a bit going on in order to automate the task of posting about my new video releases to social media. And there's a bunch of enhancements that I want to make to this script as well. Obviously, I need to tidy it up a bit to be a bit more efficient. And I'll also like to explore the possibility of gathering the data from YouTube and making the social media posts as asynchronous functions so that the whole script runs a lot quicker and the computer isn't waiting for, say, the Instagram post to run before the Facebook post can begin. This project has taught me a whole bunch about Python programming, especially around the use of the logging library and inserting data into a MySQL database. Interacting with a bunch of different API endpoints is something that I do fairly frequently, but I don't normally use multiple APIs in the one program. So this one was a really good learning experience. This script has made my social media life a lot easier to manage. And if you feel like you can use this for your social media presence as well, feel free to clone my Git repository and modify it for your own needs. I'm definitely going to be diving into more automations using the YouTube API in the future, including using a script to handle the uploading of videos. And also I want to be able to pull down some statistics to help me track views, etc. So if you want to see the results of those experiments, I recommend you subscribe now so you don't miss out. That's all we have for this video, and I do hope that it helped you in your workflow automation journey. Be sure to comment down below with home or workflow automation ideas that you'd like to see me cover in future videos. Don't forget to follow HiveMind Automation on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook to see the automated social media posts as we saw in this video. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button down below to give it a like, and if you're not already subscribed, please consider subscribing now. While you're at it, hit the bell icon to get notified when I release new videos each week. And if you're looking for a VPN provider, there's an affiliate link for NordVPN in the description as well. I've chosen to partner with NordVPN because they've got the best infrastructure of any of the VPN providers I've seen. They have a strict no logs policy and servers all over the planet. So if you want to protect yourself when surfing the internet, I recommend you get a VPN today, and you might as well use my link down below to sign up for NordVPN and help support the channel. Lastly, if you like what I'm doing here and you want to help to support the channel in another way, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description down below. Those contributions through Buy Me a Coffee are put towards making more and better content for you to enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Stu from HiveMind Automation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.